Hello and welcome to a special edition of Global Lens from Washington, D.C. We get to the heart of the matter as far as Donald Trump's tariffs are concerned. There is a lot of uncertainty among businesses worldwide as to what will happen next, and they're holding back investments as well. Here in United States, we're seeing tensions between US and China erupt once again, with both sides accusing each other of breaking the tariff truce. At the same time, Donald Trump has vowed to increase tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. Then there is a legal challenge to Trump tariffs as well. What's going to happen next as far as Donald Trump's tariff wars are concerned? What will this mean for businesses worldwide? And what are the real prospects of the India-US trade deal? Joining us to talk about all of this is Atman Trivedi, who is a partner at the DGA Albright Stonebridge Group in Washington, D.C. So hi Atman, thank you for joining us right outside the White House as well. Give us a sense about the mood among your clients right now. Is this, are they now reluctant to make future investments? Is there confusion?
Well, I think the new approach to trade policy coming out of the new administration here in Washington, it's created a little bit of hesitance. Clients are taking a wait-and-see approach. There's a lot of optimism about India, a sense of momentum, robust growth in recent years coming out of the pandemic, but also a sense that questions of tariffs, trade policy, immigration issues, that's just creating a little bit of uncertainty, and it makes companies less willing to take action when it comes to big investments.
Right. What's the optimism about the India-US interim trade agreement? We're hearing that an interim trade deal between the two countries could be signed by the end of June.
Well, you know, the signs point to both sides being on track. The tone has been remarkably positive. You know, both sides are negotiating in good faith, substantive discussions taking place as we speak here today. Visitors coming to and from Washington and Delhi. So there's cause for optimism. This is the farthest the U.S. and India have come on any kind of a trade agreement. The level of ambition is quite significant. But we shouldn't understate you know, some of the issues that come along with doing such an ambitious deal.
But what are your clients really asking in terms of dropping barriers on both sides? Let me start with India. What is the major ask from the US side, US businesses, when it comes to reducing those non-tariff barriers?
Right. I mean, I think, you know, the tariff rates have been significant over the years in India. And so reducing those tariff rates, addressing non-tariff barriers, localization requirements that are related to Make in India, for instance, you know, handling these kinds of issues, customs facilitation issues, things that go to the ease of doing business but may not be trade per se. You know, these kinds of things are at the forefront of a business's mind. Issues like taxes, right. GST.
Okay, now let me also ask you about the current tension point between India and US, and that is retaliatory tariffs. India has gone to the WTO saying that they will impose retaliatory tariffs against the US because of the 25% steel and aluminum tariffs. US has rejected any discussion with India on this matter. In fact, Donald Trump has gone ahead and said that we'll further increase tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25 to 50%. How do you see this becoming an irritant in the relationship, or no?
Well, I think it's a not insignificant development, but it's one that can be managed. I mean, we've seen this pattern before during the first Trump administration. I think India's approach this time around has been a lot more conciliatory, trying to be constructive and positive in tone and approach, and seeing that as the best way to advance India's interests. I think the moves on steel and aluminum are somewhat expected. The steel industry here has major domestic significance. There's an interest in protecting blue-collar workers. So these are issues that I think are going to be pain points, but they can be addressed in due course. They're manageable.
The US-China trade deal, for that matter, Atman, right now we're seeing tensions between US-China once again. Donald Trump has gone on to say that Xi Jinping is not keeping his side of the bargain. China has gone on to say it is US which is not keeping its side of the bargain. So we see those tensions erupting again. How badly could America and global trade be impacted because of the US-China trade tension?
Well, it's a tremendously important trade and economic relationship, as you know. If there are disturbances in either capital, and there's market access issues in either country, that's going to have spillover effects, including for India. So it's something that bears watching. Following the talks that took place in Geneva between the U.S. and China earlier this month, things had shown signs of stabilizing. Both countries are going to take steps that mildly annoy the other. That's the nature of the U.S.-China dynamic these days. And both countries have to be mindful about their domestic audiences as well. And so you'll see this kind of public jockeying. But there are also reports that that there are discussions taking place for a call between President Trump and President Xi. So this is all part of the bargaining process, sometimes public bargaining, sometimes private bargaining.
Right. I would also like to ask you about the legal challenge. A U.S. trade court has put a stay on Donald Trump's tariffs. The U.S. government went into appeal. They've got a reprieve from the stay for the moment. But how does this legal challenge impact Donald Trump's tariffs and trade wars going forward? Does this give some leverage to India in the trade negotiation as well?
Well, I think that's the question everybody was trying to answer at the end of the week when the Court of International Trade here blocked the Trump tariffs. And then you had a federal circuit court on appeal pause that Court of International Trade decision. I think tariffs, the administration has shown its hand, the role that it sees tariffs playing in U.S. trade and economic policy. I think they're generally going to continue in that direction. They may need to find another law under which to base their tariff actions, but I think those tariffs are most likely to continue moving forward. It may provide for some countries, a sense that maybe, if there's not a strong basis for the tariffs, so maybe that gives a little bit more leverage in negotiations. But there are reasons to think that this administration is going to continue down the route of tariffs, and it'll find another law again if the one that was used to justify the reciprocal tariffs is in fact invalidated by the courts. But expect this to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. The court's composition is favorable to the president. Wouldn't want to prejudge how they would rule. But again, there's probably other legal basis that they can cite for the tariffs.
So this uncertainty is going to continue for a few months.
I think the uncertainty is going to continue for a few months. More generally, the uncertainty on the administration's trade approach is going to continue through June into July. We know the deadline for the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, the 26% tariffs on India that were paused. The deadline for that to get to an interim agreement is July 8th. July 9th, the tariffs snap back into effect at 26%. And I'm reasonably optimistic that the sides will be able to reach an agreement.
Right. I would also like to ask you about the optimism with the trade agreement. Is this going to lead to increased U.S. investments in, say, manufacturing in India?
Well, I think that has to be the hope on the part of India, and I think it's a reasonable expectation. Reaching a trade agreement, integrating into supply chains, having the cost of inputs that go into manufacturing in India be reduced, having more certainty about those costs, all of those should advance India's plans to attract investment to make in India. And so I think that's one of the movers, one of the motivators for a trade agreement to try to increase inbound investment going into India.
Right. My final question about Tesla. Today, India has notified guidelines for a scheme for manufacturing electric vehicles in India, whereby any company investing in EV manufacturing will get a 15% duty concession as opposed to 100% duties on fully built cars. And this is for importing 8,000 cars into India annually. It seems Tesla is not interested in manufacturing in India, but do you think in the current environment, will they even enter the India market?
Well,
even if they don't manufacture?
You know, a company like Tesla may be thinking about, you know, before they manufacture there, what is the market like? Is there sufficient demand? And so steps like the one that you cited that India has taken, that could reduce costs, reduce uncertainty, send a market signal about a more hospitable environment. And so that could be the beginning of a gradual process where Tesla dips its toes in the waters in India, and then with an eye towards looking at the question a little bit down the road about potential manufacturing in
All
India.
right. Atman, thank you so much for joining us here in Washington, D.C., telling us about what U.S. and Indian businesses are thinking about Trump tariffs and how this uncertainty will continue over the next few months as well. Wonderful being with you.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.